Where there's thunder, there's lightning. John Nada. Many of you have probably already seen on the news the weather event that has cascaded across the United States. And I had a thought that came to mind when it came to things like this. I'm not somebody that I would consider to be a prepper or anything like that, but I do like to have certain things in my car, especially during the wintertime. I do like to have certain items on hand at home. And this is just kind of a wake-up call, I think, for a lot of people who maybe had never thought about any of that before. And it's kind of a joke anyway, amongst a lot of people, kind of make fun of preppers and make fun of people that are into that sort of thing. But, you know, everybody wants to laugh and joke until it's time to have things, until it's time to, deal with events such as these, and you don't have what you need. So, kind of a PSA to you guys out there, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are already on the ball with this, but not a bad idea to maybe get together a little plastic storage tote and, put some things in there. Hand crank radios, some, you can buy bottles of water and things and keep those on hand for a long time. MREs, dried food goods, extra batteries. All those things will make riding out the storm that much more comfortable and give you a little bit of peace of mind. That being said, it's kind of interesting because I get the distinct impression that everybody kind of wants you to be miserable. Now, what do I mean by that? You get a lot of people you work with, family, friends of family, family of friends. And, they always ask that question, well, how's so-and-so doing? What's so-and-so into these days? And it seems like 9 times out of 10, they're asking the question not out of any kind of true altruism or concern for that person. What they really want to hear is how terrible so-and-so has it, how bad things are going for so-and-so. And I don't think it's any big secret. I think a lot of people probably have realized this, especially as they get older. At some point in time, you kind of realize that really most people don't have your best interest in mind. And so it's almost as if people want you to be doing bad either out of jealousy or out of a fear that, they're going to have to improve themselves in some way, shape, or form. And that kind of leads me into this other idea about expectations, whether it's from the society or from individuals in your life or whatever the case may be. And one of the examples is, this is something that I've seen time and time again throughout, and I'm sure many of you can identify with this, but you work for a place and you sacrifice a lot of time and a lot of hours to keep that place afloat, to keep that place doing well, to keep the engine on track. And so let's say you work, they call you up or they're shorthanded or whatever the case may be. And 499 times you've gone in early, you've gone in on a day off, you've stayed late, you've worked several days off in a row to help out. And the 500th time they ask, and you say, well, I've got this going on, or this is happening, or you just don't want to go in. It's like the 499 times before that never happened. I mean, you could go in every time you're asked to, but the one time you don't, you've set the expectation up that anytime they pick the phone up and call you in, you're going to come in. If you set that expectation up, then it's just taken for granted. It's expected. They're entitled to it. And I had a friend of mine, he's in a supervisory role now, but, he told me the other day, when I started my new function within the company, told him about all the things I was doing and all the things I was setting up and how hard I was working. And he told me, well, just be careful, because if you set their expectations high, then they're going to expect that every time, and you simply can't perform at that level every time. And I mean, it goes against the work ethic that I've always had, but he's not wrong. I mean, everywhere I've ever worked, it's been that sort of situation. If you set the expectations high, and one time, you meet the mark, or one time you don't meet the mark, then it's as if all those other things you did never existed. And I've talked about it here before on the program, the rule of 70%. If you're a guy that consistently does 100%, the one time you do 98%, you're just a scourge of the planet. But if you have a guy, and let's say the expectation is 70, or I think I said the 75% rule. If meeting the standard is 75% and a guy is consistently hitting 60%, the one time he hits 68%, it's just thrills and chills for this guy. Man, he's really improved. I mean, he still hasn't met the standard, but it's thrills and chills for him, because, man, is he improving. He's consistently at 60, and now he's done 68%. But the one time you do 98, because you were sick or you had something going on or whatever, you didn't get good sleep that night, again, scourge of the earth. And so a lot of what MGTOW is doing what's best for you. And the society has done a great deal to convince you that doing what's best for you is somehow wrong or selfish. Meanwhile, everybody else is out there doing what's best for them. And so it's one of those things where a lot of people end up doing a lot of things that they really don't want to do. They do them out of a sense of obligation or a sense of, duty, or, I mean, I don't want these people to be upset because I didn't come in and work. I don't want these people to think that I'm not a team player. In the meantime, if you'll look, it's always the same people going in to bail everybody out. But when the shoe's on the other foot, when it's reversed, nobody's ever there to bail those people out. And so I'm a firm believer anymore of just doing what you were going to do regardless. Don't do things because you think people are going to appreciate it and remember it on down the line. Do what's best for you. Because the truth of the matter is the minute you clock out, the minute that next day rolls around, they've already forgotten all about it. It's not unlike a relationship where it's, what have you done for me lately? You got me 4 roses last year and only got me 3 this year. So it's one of those things where you might as well do what you were going to do, because people are going to always have something negative to say. People are always going to talk badly behind your back. People are never going to remember the things that you did to help them out, or the things that you did to help, your job out, to help this supervisor out or that person out. People don't remember that. You have to learn to say no. I mean, we talk about it all the time in MGTOW, saying no to women, saying no, to, the standard model of relationships. So why should jobs and things like that be any different? You have to have self-respect, because most people are only going to ever have respect for themselves and nobody else. So you can't really concern yourself with what anybody thinks, or whether they've said this, or whether they appreciate that. Because at the end of the day, no matter whether you come in that 500th time or you say no, they'll just find something else to say that you didn't do, or to complain about, or to talk ugly behind your back about. And, that's kind of the thing. When you look at the current situation with dating and relationships and what all's out there. I mean, it amazes me as a man that's living the American dream. And I would say I'm living the American dream. I've got a house, good paying job, not struggling financially, have a lot of free time, and the ability to enjoy hobbies and all that nice stuff, the freedom to choose. And yet living the American dream is not enough in 2021 for most women to want to date or settle down with a guy. So beyond all that, what is there other than, I guess, being a millionaire? But then being a millionaire is not going to be enough. You've got to be a billionaire, and so on and so on and so on. And for what? A couple weekends ago, went to one of the local stores, and I happened to see that they were selling caviar. And I was like, man, I remember seeing this in the cartoons and hearing about this from Robin Leach, The Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. It's just this little jar, and it wasn't that expensive. But we've all heard about how expensive caviar is, and thus what a delicacy, what a luxury caviar is, and it just must be really good. So I bought the caviar, brought it home, had some crackers or whatever, and I tried it, and it just kind of wasn't terrible. It wasn't that it tasted bad; it just kind of didn't really have the kind of it didn't live up to the hype, so to speak. And to me, that's the perfect analogy of relationships, and not just relationships, but more specifically, the sexual aspect of relationships. Guys get so hung up on, got to get out here and have sex, got to get out here and find some woman to bed down with. And you hear about it, from adolescence, on up into old age. And yet when you finally, meet somebody, you finally do the deed, you finally commit the act, and it's like, it was good. I mean, it was entertaining. I could certainly see in times past when you didn't have the technology that we have and the choices of like hobbies and entertainment things, I could certainly see why in the 1920s and the 1930s, and before, that sex was such a big deal, because, I mean, you didn't really have that many entertainment options to begin with. And I think Paul Proteus was the one that made that point about the technological advances now versus, what they had to entertain themselves with then. And so the thing is, that's where I was going with the whole thing. I mean, they built this thing up, and then when you finally achieve it, it's just kind of like, is that it? I spent years, I spent hours in the pursuit of that. Now, I'm not saying that it's not fun and enjoyable and all that. But I mean, all the red tape aside associated with the downside of all that, things that could go wrong, it's kind of like caviar. It's got a pretty overblown reputation for what it ends up amounting to in the end. And so that's the whole thing. At the end of the day, you should be most concerned with, are you happy with where your life's going? You should be most concerned with, am I living my true and authentic self? Because most people aren't. And most people are putting on a front. Most people are trying to appear to be things that they aren't. I mean, that's what social media is all about. It's all about appearing to be more wealthy or appearing to enjoy life, more so than the reality, or to appear more spiritual or more healthy, or to virtue signal and all these other things. But the reality of it is that most people are living artificially. And they're living artificially because they refuse to be honest with themselves and honest with, the other people out there. Nobody wants to be ostracized. And if you're different, if you do your own thing, then you immediately make yourself a target. You become the focus. The spotlight is on you. and people immediately want to begin gossiping and making presumptions and spreading rumors. But the thing is, at the end of the day, what do you value most in life? People are always going to criticize and complain about and try to ridicule those things they don't understand, especially those things that cause them to self-introspect and make them wonder if they're making the most of their own life, make them question if the traditional paths that they took were the right path to take. And so that's why people continue to live in the cave rather than come out of the cave, risk the brief moment of pain from the sensitivity to the sun, and give it time for their eyes to adjust. As always, go your own way or don't. The choice is yours.